Hello everyone. So I don't really think I ever made a video on this topic. If I remember correctly, I never really talked about how to use Emacs, especially org mode Emacs for capturing random notes, or basically using if you're coming from Windows background, so basically using Emacs org mode like a notepad. Imagine that you are on Windows, because I use Windows quite a lot because I have to. It's okay. I don't really mind it, but I use it, especially when I'm working for a client, for a client project using their laptop, because sometimes it is a requirement. And although I use Emacs on Windows as well, but usually people who are familiar with Windows, or they use Windows, I'm sure you or most of them are using Notepad, right? So you just press Windows R key and you type in Notepad, and you can take some notes and you can save it. So basically, imagine that you're doing something on the internet, you found a code snippet, or maybe you just want a place to write something. So in Emacs, if you're using org mode, there's something called as org capture. For example, if you press, so there is a command called org capture, but there is a key binding as well, Control C, and then no, not C, Control C. God, what is happening with my control? Control C and then C. So if you press Control C and then C again, you can then select the template, and based on the template, basically based on this template, that let me just do it one more time. So based on this, oh come on, I can't really zoom in. Anyways, to that particular small pop-up. So basically, when you do Control C, it will give you this option to select a template where you can maybe capture something. But usually the purpose of using org capture is to capture, let us say, something that you remember. Let us say you have a task to do, and right now you don't really have access to your basically the task. When you create a task in org mode, those tasks should be eventually placed under a specific project or a header, but that particular project or header will not be always available to you like immediately. Of course you can find it, but not always accessible easily. Then you create these quick tasks in your org file, one of the org file, and then from that particular org file you can then move it to your main project or a header using org-tree-file. So this is the process, but apart from this process, so when you're using org capture, you're basically creating a task or a header, but sometimes you just need to maybe capture something. You need a place where you can paste something. So let me talk about it. Let me share how we can do that. I'm sure I have done this maybe while doing some videos, but let me talk about it because I think this is a use case, a very simple use case, but definitely useful. So let us say you found some snippet on Stack Overflow and you want to copy the code or whatever text that you have. So you can press Ctrl X B, and usually Ctrl X B is the command to select the buffer or one of the open buffer. So you can type in here the buffer name. For example, these are my buffers, but instead of selecting the existing buffer, what you can also do, you can press Ctrl X B followed by the name. Let us say test hyphen buffer, and if you press enter, it will give you this empty space where this is the buffer. So basically it is like your empty notepad, whatever you want to call it. It is a notepad, not the Windows application, but a notepad. So you can paste here things, right? Now usually if you look at the because usually when you're working with org mode, or when you're working in Emacs, there are modes, right? And of course I don't really talk about modes because most of the times I'm using org mode, but right now org mode is not really enabled. For example, so this is not really org mode, so you can do something like control asterisk, and this should be a task, but it is not really following my org mode. If I press Control Enter, it is not really doing one more entry, but I can change the mode, right? I can simply do org mode, and then it is indeed it is indeed a org file, whatever. And you can of course have your, code blocks or whatever you want to store here, right? Now, the important idea here is to store something, then of course you can move it somewhere else. But you can also save this to a file. So you can press Control X. So usually to create a new file, we press Control X, Control F, but that is not what we are doing right now. We are saving this to a buffer, or basically we are saving this buffer to a file. So you can do simply Control X, Control S, Control X, Control S, and then specify the location where you want to save it, and yeah, you're done. That is it, right? A simple thing, but simple way to use org mode, Emacs org mode, to store random nodes, text, whatever you want to store here, and then eventually save it to a file. And that is all. Let me know if this is useful. I'm sure it is useful, right? So that is all I wanted to talk about today. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and you learned something new. Thank you very much. Bye bye.